Good evening, my friends. It's me, Krista Fee from Battle2BE, and we are here tonight on this beautiful Monday for another episode of Rise Up, Ignite Your Life. Tonight is episode number 41. So we've been with you guys for a while, and we're really excited. We finally did manage to get to the point where our podcast is going to be generating some donation money for our 501c3 that will keep our ferryman program up and running, doing those amazing memorials for families of the fallen and never forgotten. And if you guys were here when we did our last major trip to Florida, we are doing a new trip to Washington coming up soon. So we will be taking Phoenix, the Memorial Jeep, all the way to Washington and honoring 27 families on the way. And if the world doesn't get its crap together, there sadly and unfortunately will probably be many more. Every day we have added between 2 and 4 fallen officers or military personnel or firefighters to our memorial roster. And we don't do everyone, we only do the ones that people ask us to do. So we know just by being on Facebook and other social media that there are many, many others. So we need to get a hold of this issue of suicide. We need to get a hold of this issue of violence against our first responders. And today, to talk about some of those topics, is an amazing man who is doing so many things. He is an ex-boxer, detective, and patrolman, turned advocate, trainer, and founder of a nonprofit organization called My Father's Business. And I'm going to let him tell you all about that. He is also an author, and he's giving back what was given to him. And tonight we're going to discover his true story of real transformation. Please welcome Matt Thornton. Hi, Matt.
Hi, how you doing, Krista?
So good. It's been an amazing day. So much is happening that is good on top of all the sad things that we talk about all the time. So it's a balance. It's always a balance that helps.
It's a crazy balance every single day.
All the hard stuff. So you have so many things that we can delve into. So I want to start at the beginning. Let's talk a little bit about Matt as a little boy.
How bad.
Yeah, weird.
I was one of, I grew up right outside, just north of Chicago. My mother's from Chicago. My dad is from Las Vegas, and they met when he was stationed out here in the Navy. So the city I grew up in is probably about 40 minutes north of Chicago. Had a normal middle class childhood. I was one of 4 kids. The worst behaved out of the 4. I was the middle child, so I was never a good student. Never really aspired to be much in life. Never went to college. Never took an ACT. I barely passed high school. I was getting suspended all the time, hanging around the wrong people, and so yeah, I always tell the kids that don't follow my path. All the kids that I mentor, don't do what I did. And yeah, basically that was it. I was a good ball player. That's really the thing that kept me in high school: basketball, football, baseball. So yeah, I finished high school with no plan, no nothing, no college, no military. I didn't take. I remember taking it to practice ACT, and I just filled in the dots. That was it. So to think that I would end up in this predicament and this situation is I just say that God put me here. That's all I can say, because it's unlikely.
I think some of us just have to learn the hard way.
Yeah. So I ended up when I graduated high school, and this whole it's crazy because the whole time I hated police. Like I was rebellious. After high school I was hung around mainly family and friends, was mainly gang members. I had some decent, hardworking friends, but most of the ones I was with the most were gang members. And I caught a case when I was 21, packing an illegal pistol. So there's that too. So that adds to the unlikeliness of me being this spokesman cop. So yeah, that was basically it. From the time I was 21 I had that criminal record. I had that charge. Luckily, it got dropped down to a misdemeanor, so it's not a felony record. And then I just worked menial jobs. That was basically my upbringing.
So that begs the question, how did it happen?
Oh my gosh, the most ridiculous, unlikely thing. I was 21 when that started, and I just worked. I had 2 kids. I was just scrapping check to check. Worked in a warehouse, and two things happened. 2 buddies that I hung out with a lot, they became cops, and they went the right route. They went to college, military. They did that, but I still used to drink with them. And they got this. I remember when they got hired at the academy. I used to ask them all these questions because, like, man, I'm just as cool as you guys. I'm just as I'm just as smart. I don't might not be book smart, but I'm a street smart dude. So I used to ask them all these questions. What it's like being a cop, and they finally got sick of me. So I was 28 or 29, and they were like, you know what? They're hiring. All you need is a high school diploma. Just go and see if maybe you get lucky. So I took the test, and the first city I tested for, which is right down the road, I made it really high on there after the first few interviews. I had to lie a lot because my family that is very notorious, the gang members I was talking about, they were notorious in that city. So I kind of had to not tell them that part. And it turns out I did really well up until the time where all the thorough background checks came, and they found out about the gun charge, and then they found out about, oh no, we're not hiring somebody from that's associated with them. So it broke my heart. And then I said I was going to take one more test, and this is the city I grew up in. It's called Zion, and I said it's a smaller department. Nobody wants to work there because they're so short-handed, and it's pretty violent and pretty notorious city. But I was like, let me just try it. So I did, and I ended up being dead last on the hiring list. Dead last, barely passed it, and I'm still the only one left from that list on the PD. 18 years ago. That was my introduction.
So you're persistent.
Yes. You know what the funny thing was, though, and here's where I made the big mistake. And my animus towards the police, I really still wasn't a big fan. I wanted to do it because this is like 3 times the amount of money. This is a career. This isn't like working in this warehouse. I basically did it so I can get a higher salary and have a cooler job. But I didn't study anything. I knew nothing about the police world. I knew what I had experienced in life, and I never had very good experiences with the police. And I think that's really what set me up for what could have been disaster when I started my career.
So we always talk about the job,
Mm-hmm.
and there's such a polarized feeling about the job because most people learn to just passionately love it at the same time that a lot of people have said that it's not loving you back.
Yeah, I felt that. Oh my gosh, that I've never heard that put more perfectly. I was all excited about, oh my gosh, I got a career. I can be like, my kids can look up to me. And when I started, it was a big wake up call because they didn't accept me right away. My PD, they were brutal to me. A lot of them because they knew about some of the things in my past. Some of them had dealt with me growing up. So they didn't welcome me at all. And then all my friends and family that were gang affiliated, and they didn't want me. They thought I was a sellout. So right off the bat, I had a disadvantage from both sides. I just felt like a stranger in a strange land. And that was just the outside psychological part of it. Had nothing to do with all the carnage that I was about to see. So yeah, it was very, very bizarre time in my life. I always think back like on how crazy it actually was to get in there. Get kind of emotional.
We always talk about society, people out that don't know it. They have a perception of the thin blue line, that like there's this brotherhood and you guys always have each other's back, and there's this door opens and magically you're all just best friends and you can trust each other, and it's not like that. It's really a Shark Tank. You guys are the first to turn on each other.
Oh my gosh. It was, I'm telling you, when I started, and I still have problems. I still got to ask God to help me forgive some of that stuff. I got cussed out. These grown men that I'm not a 21-year-old kid starting here. I'm a grown man with a family. And then these dudes that have years on, they think they can just punk me to my face. And like the way I was raised, you don't say nothing to a man's face unless you can whoop him. So I it was so hard for me. I wanted to like either get in a fist fight and beat somebody up, or just quit this job altogether, because it was a lot for a grown man to take. I touch on that in my book a lot what about the treatment of people that are starting. And you have that so correct. There was no, when I started, like, it was so different than I perceived. I'm picturing in my head like, okay, this is cool. I was a football player. This is gonna be like a football locker room. We got each other's back. We're just this one big team. But man, it was a phony investigation against me for doing something I didn't do, like illegal something. Like I believe it was selling cocaine. It was crazy. That actually got like a couple people demoted when the truth came out. So justice got them. But yeah, that's how much they didn't want me there. It was brutal.
So they tried to undermine you.
Oh yeah, big time. And what are you gonna say if you're a rookie? You say anything and you're gone. You're on probation. You could be released for anything at any time. So that was my introduction to being a cop. And and as God is my witness, I was just a square, solid dude, rule follower. I did my job morally, and I did it. I'm a hard worker, and they had no reason to put me through that.
So you're a fighter.
Yeah, oh yeah.
A fighter. So, how does that fit into your story? The actual boxing.
I just eventually it came into being a couple years down the line after starting. It was actually, I got into it because it was the only thing that I could take out my rage and my aggression. It actually helped keep me alive. Boxing became really my only way to live. I just lived in that gym, beating on each other, getting beat up. I mean, it was. I would always, to be honest with you, not to sound so hateful or anything, but I always pictured them dudes that tried to punk me that I couldn't do nothing to them. I took it out in the ring.
It's an excellent coping strategy.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
I always try to with my folks. I try to say use it with discretion, because you're
Mm-hmm.
teaching yourself that that's your coping mechanism. So you
Yep.
don't to be out of control with your physical violence. But
Mm-hmm.
there are times when the energy is so strong inside you that you just have to release all of that pain, and you just have to release all of that experience and all of that anger and all the different emotions that layer on top of each other. You've got to get physical, and that's a safe way to get physical. So, I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
at least you got it out and didn't just stuff it away until
Yeah.
it was too late. Because
Well, I eventually learned how to do that. What ended up happening was I just kept all that in. And I mean, I'm just talking about like me, myself, as getting the job. But I mean, I didn't even touch on like what I seen every day at the job. I mean, there's no rest for an officer, especially a rookie officer in a busy city. When I started, we were shorthanded. So it's a very small handful of us handling. I mean, Zion is shootings. I mean, they're almost every day, when during the summertime. And yeah, dealing with all that, especially where I grew up, because it's where I grew up. So we're talking about, I'm dealing with people that I've known for 30 years and loved for or however many years. I had an extra special eye opening, like a rude awakening, to see, and even a lot of ones that I grew up with they didn't like me anymore either. So it's pretty brutal.
and often you got a call, you knew who it was.
What's that?
And the hard part with you was that was your area. So
Yeah.
when you got a call, you knew who it was.
Mm-hmm. I've seen more people that I know die, and terrible things. I've had to lock up people I've known for decades. It's pretty tough on you if you don't know how to cope with it. Um, my way of doing it was all of my frustration. See, when I first started, you didn't talk about being sad or being mentally stressed. You just didn't say a word. One of the worst things that ever happened to me. I always tell this story because it was so alarming. My rookie, I call my rookie season like I'm in the pros or something. My rookie season, we had a double homicide, and it was two 8-year-old girls. and we were the ones that they were butchered. And me and my two partners, the ones who found the bodies. And seeing a crime scene is people get this thing like, okay, you see it, you're done, or you turn it over to somebody. You're married to that scene. Like you're standing over those bodies for hours. You're looking at every detail of what happened. Um, it's spiritual, really. You can feel the darkness and the just it's hard to describe, but I think the Bible describes it as a heaviness. You can just feel the air is just heavy, and it's so bizarre. So I'm standing there, and we're there for hours guarding these babies' bodies, and I hear one of the old timers, because I'm just a rookie. I just started. I hear one of the old timers say something to the effect, "Well, this don't mean nothing. We do this all the time. I'm gonna go home and sleep like a baby." So, and that was one of the guys that everyone looked up to, one of the old timers. And I'm thinking, okay, that's the attitude I guess I gotta have. You can't never say out loud what's really hurting you. Because all I wanted to do was cry. I'm standing over this, looking at this, and all I'm doing, my daughter's around the same age. All I wanted to do was break down and weep. But it trained me right away. Like, no, don't show nothing. You're not allowed to be like that. And you got the feeling that if you talked about hurting or crying or admitting that you went home and you couldn't sleep, you would be pegged as weak. That was very, very apparent to me, like in a huge way. So I just learned right off the bat, you don't say nothing, you hold it in, you bottle it up. And anyone that knows anything about psychology knows that it's going to come out in a destructive way if you hold it in. It's got to come out. Um, so what I did was, I mean, you couple that. I remember that call. This is a perfect example of my city. That call, those two girls ended up being a serial killer. Got those two girls. We ended up solving it years later. But the very next day, I had to pack that away, go on, try to go home and get some sleep, come back that same night, and I see a lady get run over by her girlfriend, gets her arm ripped off, or her boyfriend ran her over with a van, arm ripped totally off, with a chopper to. So I'm trying to deal with. I'm not even over the first. I'm still not over the first one, years later, but I got to cope with that and deal with the one that comes right along, and then you stand over that scene. You do it all over again, and again, you can't say anything. You can't say I'm hurt. Um, so that just snowballs, and call after call, time at month after month, it just goes by. You never say a word. You try to act stoic. You try to act tough, and I took it up with my way of getting it out was drinking, and so drinking and womenizing. I was always a moral guy on the job, but I did everything that you could possibly, every temptation that you could possibly take up, immoral, like living like a heathen. My mom used to call me. Um, I have no idea why. If you get a badge, all of a sudden you're more handsome to women. Um, I have no idea why. The badge makes ugly guys handsome, and you can like women just love men in uniform, and it was so easy, and it's such a temptation. And then you couple that with drinking your pain away. You couple that with thinking your head is out to here because you think you have this power. You become an egomaniac. It's all about you. You almost become I had a little narcissistic qualities back then, and I ended up ruining my marriage. It's still something that hurts me to this day. My kids were probably like 6 and 8 when I split on them, and I own that 100%. And it just that divorce just adds to the darkness. It just gets darker and darker and darker, and pretty soon you're disillusioned. I call it disillusioned with life. Like, how did I get here? This is 3-4 years down the road. I'm like, what happened to that normal dude that was driving that forklift, living check to check? He's a normal guy. But all of this 3-4 years in, and I was this monster that still couldn't talk about the pain. Don't say nothing. They'll think you're weak. And that's how I just went on and on about it until a lot of things came to a crossroads. It was almost like it was going to go really, really bad, or I was going to have to fix it. So I was very lucky in that sense.
We've had difficulties trying to find actual accurate statistics on marriage
Mm-hmm.
and serving. And the numbers that we're coming up with appear to be for police officers as much as 80%. So the normal everyday average is approximately 50%. So officers have way less chance of managing to maintain a solid marriage on the job.
I mean, this stuff needs to be trained with spouses next to you, training with this stuff.
Yeah.
It's we're not intentional about that either. But heck, who wants to, the way that policing is? Who wants to bring your significant other around some of these scumbags? They might chase her if she's pretty.
They probably would chase her.
Yeah, but that's a whole nother show. But oh my gosh.
But you guys have to learn how to communicate your pain with your spouses in a way that doesn't, let's say, like vomit on your spouse. You don't want to give them all of your details, but you want to be able to share the emotions with them and say, hey, I had a really rough day. Can you just hold me right now? Or can we just be together right now and co-regulate those emotions? It doesn't have to be. Oftentimes when we talk about traumatic stress, we say, oh, we need to talk about it. We need to talk about it, but we don't need to hash out the details of what we saw. What we need to talk about is that what I saw was painful and it hurt me. And I need to share this with someone that I trust and that I feel safe with. So all of this therapy, these ideas that we have to go detail for detail for detail to deal with it, it's so not true. It's not really what we need at all. And if your spouse knows and you know how to communicate, then you guys can support each other and she'll understand.
Absolutely. I always say that, like, the most healthiest thing you can do now, I wouldn't have ever said this back then. The most healthiest thing you could do is go home and weep. It's okay. We're humans. Humans aren't meant to see all of this every day. But that's hard for a cop to admit. It's also hard for a cop to say that they can go and talk to somebody who isn't a cop, because our big thing is, well, you don't walk in our shoes, so you wouldn't know. That's pride, and that's got to go away too.
Yeah, thank goodness I have an advantage because I worked in investigations. So I spent a lot of time with officers. I spent a lot of time with investigators and DOD. And so I don't get that resistance that a lot of people get because I don't cry when you tell me your shit. There's like this moment of, everybody tests me when we first get into a relationship. There's always this, like, I'm going to tell you this thing and see if you flinched. Because I'm going to tell you this really gross, gory story, and you're going to flinch, or you're going to cry, or you're going to say, oh, how could you do that? Or, judge it on me or something. And I'm just like, oh yeah, I can top that. Have you ever, and it changes everything when someone you're talking to understands.
Yeah.
Knows what you've seen. I saw it different, not in this exact same environment, but those bodies that you had came to me. So it's like I saw the same things, just in a different way.
Yeah, and it takes a special rhythm, I call it, with your spouse if you have a significant other. Mine now, she doesn't want to know that many details, but if I'm hurting, she says, come on. She knows. So we have a good thing going, and now that I know, back then there's no way. I remember my first wife just wondering what was wrong with me, and you wouldn't get it. That was my thing. You wouldn't get it.
Yeah, you have to let her see. You have to let her have that instinct of when you need it. Because if you're covering it, they don't see it. They just know you're mad, or they know that you're not right, and they can't fix it.
Yep, and then all of a sudden you're just a different person, and that's what I turned into. And when it got so bad where I just didn't want to be here anymore. I couldn't go to sleep without a bunch of prescription pills and over-the-counter pills. So it was really bad. You never sleep as a cop, especially when you're young. You're always on the night shift, and you're always getting called in. You're always taking extra shifts. You never sleep, and nobody ever explains to you the cortisol. Nobody ever explains to you the lack of sleep and how everything just snowballs, and holding it in, the stress of it. And pretty soon I just didn't want to live anymore. I remember I got caught. One of the girls I was messing around with at the time actually caught me practicing how I would end my own life. and I got turned in. What had happened is I used to take this concoction to fall asleep, and I used to practice because it was to the point. This is a few years in now, and I was to the point where I just fantasized about not being here anymore, just having the pain go away. Um, and I used to take this cocktail to go to sleep during the day because I work midnights, and a lot of times I would get woozy and I would just use my gun. I had a Kel-Tec, a little tiny one, and then my duty weapon, which is bigger, and I would practice. How would I do it? And I was under here, and I remember I fell asleep. The drugs kicked in. I fell asleep and just like sleeping like that. And she had known a little bit about what was going on with me, so she flipped. She flipped and she turned me right in to the chief, and and that made it even worse because now I'm afraid that people are going to know there's something wrong with me, and and he took my identity, took my badge and my gun, and made me go get therapists. And we're cops. We know what to say. We know what to say to get our badge back. It's easy. It was for me at least. I don't know if things have changed. This was years ago, but it was pretty simple. But I knew that the word would get out that I got to screw loose and that I would get pegged and there'd be a stigma put on me. And I wasn't gonna live with that. So that's when I came up with an actual real plan. I wasn't gonna say anything about. I was just gonna do it.
That is not uncommon.
Mm.
Your badge is your identity.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And when you're in that moment, when you need support, that is the worst possible reaction.
Mm-hmm. Man, I remember that like it was yesterday. Just coming back and saying, I am not gonna live with being seen as weak. That's like it's like your nightmare as a cop because you're looking at your other partners. You're thinking, okay, they're putting on this face like they can handle it, so I have to. And if I don't, I'm the weak link. So yeah, that was when I wrote out a letter. I was ready to go and ready for the plan, and then that incident happened on that night that changed everything for me.
I'm just going to let you keep going.
So I remember that because I remember my mom. I remember I was telling you earlier that I'm a moron when it comes to technology. But the one thing my mom bought me an iPad years ago. I didn't know what it was, and I figured you could turn it on, and it was this thing where you could type out something. So I typed out suicide note, and it was very very direct. I knew what I was going to do. I had put in there who I hated, who I loved, why I'm doing this. I didn't want any cops at my funeral. I saw it at the time. I saw it as this is what did me in. This job is what killed me, and I resented that. And I had the note ready. I knew who I was gonna leave it to. I was gonna make my last calls, and I went on midnight shift that night, and it took me a long time to even tell this story because I thought people would think I was crazy. But I'm sitting there in my squad. I'm going over this plan because when you're that manic and you're that done with life, you cry. You cry when you're alone. Every single it never fails. You're alone. All you have is your thoughts, and you just cry. So I'm doing my normal routine of crying to myself in the car. I'm going over this plan and exactly step by step how I'm going to do it. I knew where I was going to go home to my brother's house where I was living, and A, B, C, D. It was done. So I'm going over this plan, crying, weeping, and it's a winter night in Chicagoland. It was like had it been 20 below. It was in January, which is a brutal month for us. So the wind is just howling off the lake. Nobody's out. It's like 2 in the morning. I'm midnight shift. I go to Walmart just so I can sit there and cry, and there's nobody at all in the parking lot. And as I'm crying to myself, going over this plan in my head, I see this lady come out of Walmart, and I'm thinking to myself, why in the world are you walking in this parking lot? She had hair like it was black hair, but it was just like yours, straight, and it was sideways. The wind was blowing that hard. Her hair was sideways. She didn't even have a hat on. I'm looking like, why are you in the parking lot? So she walks over to this car, and then she sees me, and she walks straight towards my squad. I had parked like 50 yards away from the entrance, so it was an intentional act if she was going to come all the way to see me. So I'm like, oh my gosh, what are you bothering me right now for? I had to wipe away my tears and act like I was normal. And as she gets to my squad, I was rude actually. I didn't want to talk, so I rolled my window down a couple inches. And she didn't say nothing. She just reaches her hand in there, and she hands me something, and she says, "You need this." And then she turned around and walked away. Didn't say another word. And I opened up my hand to see what she just handed me. And it was a little red cross, and that was the most surreal moment of my entire life, hands down. Nothing that's ever compared to that. I'm literally in my car going over, blowing my own brains out. And in this unlikely, ridiculous night, this lady comes and does this. And I said, I know, God, that's you. You're talking to me right now. I knew there was a God somewhere. So I literally screamed out. I said, do something. Help me, help me, help me. Um, if you would have walked by and seen me in my squad crying out, you'd have thought I was nuts. That's another reason why I didn't tell the story for like a year after it happened, because I just was afraid people would think I was crazy. So I remember feeling this peace come over me. It's hard to explain, and I knew that God was there. I don't know how to really describe it. I just felt like there was this presence with me, and I don't know if it was audible or in my head or whatever it was. I felt or heard Jesus tell me to stop what you're doing and follow me. It was almost like he put the brakes on. I'm here, son. And that was the realest thing that I'd ever endured. Period. On earth, it was so bizarre. Um, so what I did, I knew that something this really just happened to me. So I know my sister worked for a church. Had never been there, never met anybody there, and I just called her. I said something crazy happened to me, and I need to get in there. We got a pastor in there. I don't know who he is, but can I get in there and talk to him? And I went in there the next day, and he told me the craziest thing. He said, I said, I know you don't know me. I'm Lori's brother. And he said, oh, I know you. He said, he said, he said, your sister's been coming to my office and crying. And he said, we've been praying for a supernatural event to happen in your life. And I get emotional when I say that, because it was so bizarre, because I had told him what happened in the parking lot. And I said, well, I think you got your supernatural event. And he sat me down, and I cried, finally cried, and admitted how weak I was, and admitted that I can't do this alone. I, I'm going to, I'm on a path to end my life. Do something, please. And for the first time, he kind of explained, and it took a pastor um, to explain to me the psychology of everything, to explain to me that we're not meant to walk in this world alone. That as a man, it's healthy to admit that you're weak. That as a broken human being, he explained how sin entered the world, and how we are all broken and flawed, and we can't do this by ourselves. And he said that God sends people. That's what he does. He uses people. That's his hands and feet. And let's get you some real help. And I gave my life to the Lord that day, and it's been my life's mission to find out what was wrong and find out why does this happen. And it's kind of what I do now. I was very angry. I really was very angry. Why did I have to wait 13 or 14 years into my career to hear these statistics? Nobody tells me we do all this training. We do defensive tactics. We do shooting. We do taser training, OC, handcuff training, striking, grappling. We do all this training for our bodies. But why did it take 12, 13 years of my career to know that the biggest danger to a cop is suicide in his own by his own hand? Why don't we do training for our brain? It doesn't make sense. So I was mad. I was like, I didn't know these statistics. This is the first thing that should be taught to a person coming into this profession, how dangerous this stuff is, on what you're really flirting with, or like what you're gonna go through. Like I was so like fighting mad. I was angry towards the training. I was angry towards the way the system is ran, and I've been screaming for that we need change ever since. And it's basically what I wrote about and why we even met, Krista. That's how. If I hear that someone is onto the same thing I'm onto, I'll do anything for it, because I mean we lose so many people all the time, and it's not just police officers, it's firefighters too, it's soldiers too. It's different forms of PTSD and different forms of depression, but it's the same thing. Same thing as we can't do this alone.
It's very interesting that you said what you said the way you said it. That why are we not told? Part of the program that I developed for this that needs to be implemented, we just need to implement this everywhere. And it's not complex stuff. It's stuff we know about. It literally includes informed consent at hire, and along with that is relationship, suicide, addiction, and a little bit of anger management right at the get-go. That
Oh
if
my
you
gosh.
do all of these things, these are the things that you're going to struggle with. These are the signs and symptoms of you're starting to struggle with them. These are the tools and resources you use to deal with this right at the beginning and all throughout your career. I really believe wholeheartedly that half of this problem can be eliminated right away if we just teach people at the beginning what they're getting into,
Yep.
what that looks like, so they know what's happening. And they're not 20 years in before it hits them in the face and they go, oh, this is PTSD. So many people have come on here and not known that they were struggling with something real. They thought it was just them and it was their own weaknesses or their own broken mind, and that everyone else was fine, and that there was nothing normal about their reaction. It should not be a shock. It happens to so many people. It should not be a shock.
Yeah, we all. I want to know if there's ever, if you guys are ever able to obtain like a statistic on how many officers actually do suffer from this. I mean, I bet it would be hard to obtain because so many are still afraid to admit that that's what they're going through.
No,
But
but the statistics say 15% are currently diagnosed with PTSD, but that doesn't include subthreshold PTSD that doesn't quite meet the diagnostic standards, and that doesn't include people who aren't talking about it.
yeah, and which is the huge problem, because guys just don't want to talk about it. I remember thinking back. I'm looking at. I saw once I saw this. Somebody had a chart. I teach a CIT class and I give my story and I try to encourage officers. But I work with a professor, someone who's much smarter than me. She's more of a book person, a structural person, but she has this chart that pinpoints certain steps as you progress along with depression and what officers generally go through. And I'm looking back and I fit like every single one of those categories to a T. It's an obvious pattern. That should have been that should be part of your orientation
Exactly.
as you apply to be an officer.
I agree. Absolutely. Yes.
Oh,
High five you right now.
yes. So I mean I am for all of the information. I am for and I give some examples um, in the book that I wrote. I give some examples of just very simple. I'm not a scholar. I barely passed high school, so it's just a working man's simple examples of what we need to improve. And communication is one of the biggest things. Being phony tough is another huge thing. This phony toughness, like we need to just flush it down the toilet for good. This facade, like we're these we're Commando. We're Arnold Schwarzenegger from Commando. Like get out of here. Like a perfect example I always use is a guy that I worked with. His name is Bart. He was an actual UFC fighter. Like like on pay-per-views. He got knockout of the night on pay-per-views. Made his living. The toughest dude I've ever worked with physically, hands down. He would whoop anybody in the room, but he didn't act like it. He was the most gentle, kind-hearted person that you could ever meet. You would never know by meeting him because his demeanor, and because if he was hurting, he'll tell you about it. If something's bothering him, he'll admit as a man. Like he used to come to me and we'd have long talks. Um, we need more of that, and not this phony. Oh, I can't say anything because I'll look weak. That's what I suffered from. Another one I see is the veterans. Like veterans, we have to go to these rookies. If they're not going to train them like this in the academy, first the first week they're there, put your arm around them. They're not don't be a bully and this rookie nonsense, the garbage that I had to go through. Go up and put your arm around them. You're my colleague. We're going to see some messed up stuff. You're going to come. I need you to come and talk to me uh, after any call you need. I'm here 24 hours a day. Come here and I'm going to take care of you like my own kid. And that's what we need. It was so backwards when we started. Um, that military mindset you got to put in. I mean, it was when I started, there was like lieutenants and ranking that wouldn't even talk to a rookie, wouldn't even say one word to them until you had at least a couple years on or a year on or whatever stupidity that was. In the meantime, they're just getting ran right through the mud, trauma, so it's like psychological problems, dealing with it on their own. I mean, it is just so toxic. I don't know why that ever existed. I get mad and worked up when I think about this because I think about the dead bodies of the people that didn't make it. I have a lot of survivors guilt. Um, I see that there's blood on your hands because we allowed this to go so long.
Yeah.
And it's maddening. It really is.
And we call it family,
Yeah.
but we don't treat it like family.
Uh-uh. Uh-uh. A life is so precious. So precious. Um, I have the closest person in my life took his own life 3 years ago. So I know what living that. I know the reality and the destruction that leaves behind. Um, he wasn't a cop. He was like my adopted son, um, and that one hurts. So, and I'll do anything to stop someone from having to go through that. You don't get over something like that.
And now you speak. Now you go, and you spread this message.
Mm-hmm. Yep. You have to. Um, you have to use the pain. I always say that you can sit here and just like broil in it in your pain and just be miserable every day, or you could take your pain and you could try to make something positive out of it, and you can talk about it, and you can try to save somebody with your story. I tell my kids, don't learn from your own mistakes. Learn from somebody else's mistakes. It makes you better. So you don't have to make those mistakes. Um, so I'm a huge advocate of. We just hired two or three, well, two new rookies, and they're like my best buddies. When I get over here, kid, let me tell you something. I love you. I don't want you to go through any of this stuff. Um, and it's a walk. It's a family from day one.
You lead by example.
Yeah, I do. I just like, man, and I'll go back to the time that I talked to my pastor that first night. He said one of the coolest things that stuck with me ever since. That was 2013, and I still think about it every day. So I said, Pastor, why do I still struggle with this certain sin or this certain weakness in my life? And you know, he tells me, he said, I struggle with the same thing. It's okay. Let's struggle together. And that really took me. I took that attitude in everything I do. I know I'm flawed and broken, but let's be a unit and let's get through this flawed and broken world arm in arm. Let's do this together. So I'm big in that, and keeping family tight. Just talk about stuff. and the pain don't really go away. I mean, I've gotten more stressed out. I run I'm a CEO of a nonprofit now that helps kids, and I see more stress and carnage than I ever have. But I know how to deal with it now. I know how to sustain through it, and it's a good tool to have.
So tell us more about your nonprofit.
Oh, so what ended up happening was that pastor mentored me for like a year, and he finally convinced me to tell the world what actually happened to me that night. So that was part of my story. Um, and I didn't realize that my story could help anybody. I saw the when I first said it in public, I saw some of the reactions, and I was like, wow, people were coming up to me and saying that, man, I'm going through something just like that. That gives me hope, and then you're not afraid to talk about it. So that just put me in that put so much fuel onto my fire. So I was speaking on that, and pastor's like, you need to do something structured. Start a youth group or something. We got a church here with basketball hoops that nobody uses. So he ended up convincing me to invite some kids from my city into the church. First night we had 6 kids. It was my son, who was a freshman, and 5 of his friends. So I'm like, okay, we'll do this. I didn't really want to do it. I was like, okay, pastor, we'll do it for a week or so, and then you get off my back, and I'll just get back to being a cop. But first week happens, the next week we have 10, the next week we have 15, 20, 30. All of a sudden we can't even fit any more kids in this gym, and they're all kids from my city, and they're looking at me some sort of way, like you're this cop, and these are most of these are like street kids. So a lot of them don't even know it's free food, free basketball, and you get to have a cool environment. So a lot of them come in and won't even shake my hand. But it started off kind of like that, and after a while, I started like giving them a lesson, teaching them about things, and teaching them about life, teaching them about God, all kind of different things that it turned into, and it just got the ball rolling. It turned into we're considered a public charity now. We've serviced thousands of youth from our city, and it's been beautiful. I mean, there's been so many. I could go on and all night. It's my next book actually, to write some of the stories. We service mostly fatherless, at-risk youth, mostly gang members, but they come in and we give them the gospel. We love them no matter what they've done. My team, I have an excellent team now, so we're fighting back against this is a different fight, a different front, and that's against just the young violence in our city. But it's been beautiful. We've there's so many stories.
I always tell people we're all in the same fight. Trauma is trauma, and trauma is the cause of all of this.
Yep, and that's how both of these things I'm talking about come together, because I see myself as just as broken as this kid who's a gang member with no parents. I see myself just as broken, so I can relate. Boom, I'm broken too. Let's be broken together. So that's trauma is trauma. That's perfect.
You're bridging the gap too. You're helping them see that you're human, and you're reminding people who work with you that they're human. You're keeping that individuality and that empathy and that love there that needs to be there in those relationships. As scary and as dangerous as the world can be, we still have to remember that at the end of the day, we're all just human.
Exactly. We're all flawed, and it's something to be said about saying that out loud, because I've just found it to be effective. It makes you non-judgmental of anybody, because if you admit that how many flaws you have, you're less likely to judge somebody else for their flaws. So then you have something in common off the bat. So my organization is called My Father's Business. It's done really, really well. We've been able to raise up to like $300,000 and put back to the city, just helping kids stay clean, stay off the streets, and it's been so cool. Been so much fun. Actually turned the badge that I resented. Now I've found a way to glorify God with it, and I love it. It's turned everything around.
And the name of your book?
The name of my book is Cop in Crisis to Cop in Christ. And it's just basically this hour that we've had. It's basically that in a nutshell. And then my suggestions. It really turned out to be a book. And I was so happy when there's a chief from Hawaii. He used to work for LAPD. But now he's a chief down in a smaller city in Hawaii. But he read it and he validated it. He's like, dude, every rookie needs to read this book because it's so real and it's very detailed about it's way more detailed than I wanted to get here on the show because it's reality. It's grotesque. It's like the real deal. So I've it's gotten a really good reception on Amazon for other cops. I've gotten so many people saying that this is what I go through, and I thank you so much. And you made me want to stay strong, and I'm just humbled. And I don't make any money off of it. All of it goes to my nonprofit. So I just want to help people. That's it.
Thank you so much for coming and talking to us here tonight. Is there anything that you want to leave our audience with?
I want to leave everyone knowing you can't do this world alone. You can't. We weren't meant to do this world alone. We're meant to walk through this life with God and with each other. And there's nothing that we can't solve. If you're going through it, I still go through it too. But learn how to resolve that. And Krista, you have such a key. You've touched on so many perfect points that we are going to make change. We are going to make change in this profession. If I scream this to my last breath, we are going to make change in this profession. And I really, really, I love and appreciate you for it.
Well, I say we can't do this alone, but when we all stand together and shout the same thing, tidal wave.
Yes, yes, we will.
We're not. I just had someone today tell me nonprofits are competitive with each other. You're all looking for the same money. I'm like, first off, there's way more money than we could all ever use. Like, we're not competitive about money. We don't need to. There's plenty to go around. But the other thing is, if we're in it for the right reasons, we should all be going down the same path. So just by virtue of that, we're walking together.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
So if you're not in it for the right reasons, yeah, there's going to be resistance and you're not going to be on the same path. But if you're really focused on the goal and you're really focused on the problem and you're really focused on creating a solution, we're all walking the same road. So inevitably we're beating the brush down for each other. Like we're making the path easier for each other. So why don't we do that intentionally? Why don't we connect and pool resources and pool our thoughts and ideas and create this massive voice that can't be ignored? That's what we come together.
That's why we do what we do, Kristen. And that's why they will never shut me up and they'll never shut you up because we know we have to make noise.
There's not enough of us yet.
Not yet, but they're starting to listen.
They are starting to listen. We're gonna stay in touch, and I'm gonna get with you after to make sure that I have the information for your book. And if it's okay with you, I'm gonna post it on my resources link on our website.
That would be great.
So our folks can access that. So, and then I will send you the anchor link for this so that you can do whatever you want with the video.
Okay.
And you can share that wherever you want to. So thank you so much for being with us tonight.
Thank you. I really appreciate this. Awesome. Anything you need, let me know. I'm there.
Same thing. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for being here tonight. Do not forget, his name is Matt Thornton. And if you're looking for his nonprofit organization, it is My Father's Business. And you can find his book on Amazon. And I will be posting a link for that as well. So if you are struggling, don't hold back. Reach out. You could reach out to me. You can reach out to Matt. You can reach out to anyone that you feel comfortable reaching out. Just take action. Just take the hardest first step. And everything will change. It does get better. There is hope on the other side. There is healing. And you don't have to live like this. You don't have to pretend. It's okay not to be okay, even though that is such a boxed sentiment at this point. Battle to Be, signing off.